Hello, beautiful friends. A couple of weeks ago, Matt put out a video on prototyping, and you get to see some games in very rough prototype, various stages of prototype. What those games are is a series of arcade machines for a guy named Ivan Lee, who's putting together a bit of a larger fantasy piece. And that is all going to go off to Los Angeles, to Griffith Park, which is where Boney Island is, and it will be enjoyed by the masses. Now, here are the difficulties. They're going to be outside for a month, minimum. So they'll have to be weatherproof. So everything we're going to do, we're doing in MEDX, which is it's a very heavy form of MDF that is weather resistant. And then we're going to completely seal that with 2K primer. We're going to use car paint on it, and then base coat and clear coat. And the reason we're doing a base coat, clear coat instead of a single stage, all of it urethane, is we want to do some airbrushing on the deck sides before, so that they look like bones. So in order to do that, what we have to do is base coat it in our bone white color, and then we'll use various, again, catalyzed or base coat, clear coat, base coat colors so it's incredibly expensive paint. I probably have $2,000 worth of paint in this. After the airbrush coloring is done, then we'll put a clear coat on top of that, and also because these pieces all interlock, and we wouldn't be able to get a gun in everywhere. In order to really weatherproof it, what we have to do is make various sub-assemblies and then seal all those separately and then assemble the piece and then do our finishing just on the outsides of the sides afterwards. So it's going to be a bit of a haul, but this one's all time-lapse, so it's easy. Hey, it's VoiceOver Mark. So all of these parts are pre-finished, and everything is set up to be watertight. This game is going to live outside, or these games are going to live outside, and so having them exposed to the elements, we needed a way to basically make them weatherproof. So we did our best, and the edges are all sealed. Everything is sprayed with 2K catalyzed urethane primer. 2 coats of that, sanded out, and then base coat. The build order or the assembly order of all these parts is critical. There is a specific order that they have to go together in because everything slots together with everything else. So these parts are all fitted together. This is not just butt nailed or anything like that. These are all mortise and tenon basically.
This little guy here is kind of the guts of the working bit of the laser grid, and I call this the laser turret. After like the second or third incarnation, I came up with that name because laser turrets are cool, let's be honest. The first version, I thought I could just have a fixed line where the bracket part of it was fixed in place on the whole template, and it would shine into its target, and it would just hit. But in practice, these little lasers, they don't shoot exactly straight. They're all off on some slightly random angle of a couple of degrees, but it's enough that if you try to machine lock it in what should be straight, you're going to miss your target. So this right here, he can rotate, he's got 2 set screws, and he can rotate around in his little divot on the actual plate that houses the laser grid. And then the laser itself, because it's off a little bit this way, you can kind of poke him out, turn him, and put him back in to get him to where his laser is shining parallel to the plane, even if it's off a little left or right, because you can fix that by the turret. That makes these readily tunable so that they can hit their target. Also, on the first version, I had all the lasers just hard soldered together, and I realized that made it almost impossible to repair if one of the lasers should decide to crap out. And let's be honest, if it can fail, something's probably gonna. So I had these little guys printed up. So these instead were hard soldered into the grid, and each one, it's got a voltage and a ground, and each one had 2 little 2-boot screw terminals. So a laser can go for its red and blue wire in here, its red and blue wire in here, and that way if something does fail, you just unscrew it, pull it out, pop a new one into the turret, and screw them back in, and then do your re-aiming process. And they work pretty well. I guess there's a couple of changes I would make if I were to start from scratch, knowing what I know now, but that's the glory of doing what we do, is there's always a better way, and you usually find it like 85% of the way through. So next time I make a laser grid, I have some more ideas.
So when a success occurs in the game, a skeleton, a glow-in-the-dark skeleton with black lights and all kinds of stuff and fire, anyway, it's going to rise out of a cauldron on a pedestal that all the games are aimed towards. So all the games are going to be radially aiming towards this one central column. It'll have a cauldron with a fire under it, or a simulated fire, and when the success occurs, the skeleton will emerge on a high-speed actuator. It's not going to pop out. It's electric actuator, so I believe it's like 4 inches a second or something like that is the actual speed of travel, maybe more than that. So to attach the skeleton itself to our actuator, I'm using something called the stuff is called Habitat Flex. It's an epoxy putty, but it's actually made for animals like lizards to grip and climb, so you make branches out of it and stuff like that. But what we're using it for is actually just an epoxy putty. The reason I want to use this product instead of something like JB Weld is, frankly, it's stronger, and also it comes with what's called a folding powder. So you get your 2 globs of mess, and then you basically put flour all over it. It's the special flour, and that way you can actually work it with your hands gloved, and they're not, it doesn't stick to your hands, not much anyway. Here are some still shots of the Playdex. And the lovely people at Boney Island are here enjoying the game, thanks to Ivan Lee. All right, guys, very soon, this may have something to do with what the next video is about, so hopefully you stuck around to the end so you could see that Egypt is progressing. I will see you very soon.